Namaste and welcome to ASMY for another cooking class. I'm going to be teaching you to make Snickers, raw vegan Snickers. This is one of the most popular recipes I do here at ASMY, at the mantra room actually. I serve this out all the time and people love it. So there's a few different variations, we're going to go over those as well. But it's a very, very simple recipe. There's not much to it. It's just a little bit fiddly and a little bit sticky. Okay, so we're going to, it's going to have 3 layers. The first one, the bottom layer, is going to be nougat. So it's nice and chewy. Then it's going to have a nice, rich, oozy caramel. Then there's going to be some peanuts sprinkled over the top of that. And then we're going to make a chocolate layer out of coconut oil, maple syrup and cacao powder, or carob powder if you prefer carob. And there's also another option for the top, so we'll as we go through each layer I'll expand on it, so you might want to try a different version, and I'll put the different recipes in the description below. My name's Gayatri if you haven't met me before, so welcome along and namaste. So we've got some dates. I've got a cup of dates here that I've soaked for about 10 minutes in hot water. You can microwave them in water if you're in a hurry. About 20 minutes in hot water is good. So pop the dates in the hot water first and then get your other ingredients ready, and it should be pretty right by the time you start. So you want them moist. These are nice and soft. You can squeeze them between your fingers, but we don't want them too wet. So you don't want a lot of water sitting on the bottom. So we're going to pop them in the processor. And then we're going to place the peanut butter in there. Now you're going to probably find that you'll go through almost a whole 500 gram tub of peanut butter. No wonder it's so good. So we've got 8 tablespoons here, so a nice big lot of peanut butter. I'm just using smooth. If you like the crunchy, you could use crunchy, but this is really to make a caramel. So you want the caramel nice and smooth. And we've got 2 teaspoons of vanilla. So I like the natural vanilla extract. You could use imitation, it's probably not going to taste quite as nice. And we're going to pop the top on and blend that up really well so it goes like caramel. This is looking pretty nice. Now your caramel is going to depend on the dates. So sometimes it's a runnier sort of caramel. These dates are a little bit drier, so it's going to be more of like a solid caramel, but it's okay. Doesn't matter either way. Main thing is we want the dates to be completely broken down. I can't see any date pieces in there, but if you like chunky, just leave the date pieces in. It's nice as well. I'm going to use some, now also with the dates, you could use medjool. The medjool are the king of dates. But I find here we go through so much of them, and the medjools are very, very expensive, whereas the dates that I buy, the dried dates, are about $3 a kilo. So it makes it a very, very inexpensive yet delicious sweet. So we've got some oat flour. If you don't have oat flour, what I do, I don't go looking for oat flour, I just buy rolled oats and I pop it in the blender and just keep blending it until it becomes like a flour. So nice and fine. If you're gluten-free, you could use almond meal. Almond meal is very nice as well. So I'm just not going to put it all in. I've got 3 cups here. Yesterday I made a slice, the same slice, and I needed all 3 cups. But as I said, it depends on the moistness of your dates, so I'm just going to use half that to start with. Now what it'll do, it'll sort of clump together and end up coming together in a ball. Okay, it's doing that now. So you can see that's come together in a ball. And that is probably enough. Yesterday I used the whole 3 cups, just with the 1 cup of dates. I think I soaked the dates for longer and they were a lot wetter. But that's going to be a nice base there. You don't want it too dry, but see how it's sort of sitting together nicely. Okay, so we didn't use all that flour. Okay, and we'll get our prepared tin. So I've got this tin, it's a rectangular shape, not a very big one. You could use the square cake tins as well. You could also make these in those little silicone bar tins, or not tins, they're silicone, but they're shaped like bars. You could make bars out of them as well. So we're going to pop that into our tin. And I always like to put some baking paper on the bottom with the handles, and that way you can just lift it straight out. If you've made these raw cakes before, you'll realise that they're not the easiest to get out of the tins. So this paper here, see I've left two long pieces there, so I can just lift it straight out. It just makes it much easier. So I'm going to press that into the base. So this is the perfect size for this particular recipe. This makes around about 40 like small pieces, but they're rich, so you don't need a lot of it. You'll find that a small piece is probably enough because of the richness of it. Or maybe 2. Maybe 3, but you probably couldn't eat any more than that. Because these are much like the Snickers bars that you buy, they're highly processed, so you can eat a lot more of them, whereas this is like unprocessed food, so you find that it will fill you up much quicker. So there you go, we have our nougat base now. So I'm going to just bring the ingredients out now for the caramel layer. Okay, I think we're ready now. So for our caramel layer, we have 3 cups of soaked dates, nice and moist, just like we did with the base. You can microwave them if you need to heat them up a bit quicker. We've got 8 tablespoons of peanut butter, and we've got a little bit of vanilla and a pinch of salt, just to make it a salted caramel. So there's no need to rinse your blender, it's virtually the same ingredients that are going in there. So we're putting the dates in, then the peanut butter, the vanilla, and just a little salt, so maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon or just a pinch. Lid goes on, and we will process. Pretty much there. I'm just going to do a little bit longer. You see a few little pieces of dates still in there. And there is our caramel. Very nice, gooey date caramel there. Just the 3 ingredients virtually. Okay, so we'll grab our nougat base and we'll pop our gooey caramel, salted caramel on top. You don't really need to refrigerate between. The nougat's quite firm. So the only reason you do that is so that the second layer doesn't sink into the the first layer. It's probably a good idea to wear an apron for this one. It is a very messy, sticky mix. So we're just going to smooth that over. It's a perfect amount. There's just enough room for a nice chocolate layer there, or carob layer. And then we have our caramel layer there, nice and gooey, on top of the chewy. So the next layer is really, really easy. I'm just going to get it ready. Okay, so we're ready for the top layer now. We're going to mix together 1/2 cup each of coconut oil. We're going to use some cacao or carob powder. Probably if you're going to use carob powder, I would sift it first because it tends to get little sort of stony bits that cling together. And 1/2 cup of maple syrup. Now this does give it a coconutty flavour. If you don't like that, you can use just ordinary chocolate bars or carob bars. You can buy the Aldi chocolate bars, those dark cocoa ones, 70% cocoa. They are vegan and they're very reasonably priced. I would probably put 1 to 2 depending on how thick you want the chocolate on top. So you could just melt it in your microwave or sit it in some boiling water on your stove top. But there's fors and against for both of them. The good thing about when you melt the chocolate bar or the carob bar is it doesn't melt when you bring it out to room temperature, so you can leave the sweets out and they go a bit gooier and they're quite yummy. But when you try to cut them, because the next layer down from the chocolate is the caramel and it's really, really gooey, it's really hard to cut it without it breaking. So the chocolate will tend to break up quite a bit. You could probably cut it before it sets too much. That's another option. I've never timed it right. By the time I always come back to it, it's already set. This one will cut nicely, so you can take it straight from the fridge and you can cut it and it will cut through and it's a bit softer, but it does have that coconutty flavour which you may or may not like. But either way is just as nice. I make it either way here for the mantra room, and both of them get rave reviews. So you don't really need anything. You can blend this if you like, but I just find a mixing bowl and a good old whisk is enough. So we're going to go 1/2 cup of coconut oil, 1/2 cup of cacao powder, and 1/2 cup of maple syrup. We get these nice big ones, a litre container from Costco, and they're about $16 or $18 for a whole litre. And it's organic as well. Organic maple syrup, grade A. Very, very nice. So we're just going to mix this up now. Make sure that the coconut oil is fully melted when you start. Probably going to happen here in summer, but especially here in Brisbane. One gentleman came, he was a backpacker, he came to one of our yoga classes and he said, when the coconut oil starts to melt in Brisbane, it's time to leave and move south. I can relate to that. It gets pretty hot up here. Okay, so we've got a nice chocolatey, you probably can't see that, but you'll see when I put it on the slice. So it didn't take long to mix that, a couple of minutes. And we're going to sprinkle some peanuts. I just like whole, but you could chop them if you like. It might make it easier to cut. So I like a lot, and these are salted and dry roasted. But I love peanuts, so I'm going to put a whole heap on there. So maybe a cup if you like peanuts, maybe less, 1/2 cup if you like them a bit more sparse. but you can go for it. You could use other nuts. If you don't want to use peanuts, you could make it a walnut, Snickers. You could virtually use any nut in there. But you just have to use the nut butter or make your own nut butter. And it's probably going to be a little more gritty. I don't think a lot of the nut butters cashew butter goes really smooth, but I find the almond butter is always a little bit gritty. Walnut butter's the same. Macadamia nut butter's still a bit gritty. So it'll be a different texture, but it would be very nice. Okay, so we're ready to just pour our chocolate over now. Smooth it down. I mean, if you like it really messy, you don't have to. I'm a bit pedantic with neatness, but it's not always good. Sometimes messy looks better in cooking. So there is the peanut Snickers slice. It's a lot of fun to make, a little bit messy. Kids would love it. I would have made this with my boys for sure if I knew about raw sweets in those days. They weren't really around much. So I hope you enjoy making this. I'm going to pop a photo in at the end just so you can see how nicely it cuts, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next week. Namaste.